Guys, welcome to the video for Thursday, April 2nd, and it is Continent Day. We learned a little bit about it yesterday when we were exploring, but today is Continent Day. I brought in, remember there's 7 continents. I brought in a toy that my kids have. You gotta fly around the world. It's kind of broken a little bit. Fly around the world. But the reason I have this is to show you the each of the continents. And I wish you were here to play with it because I would totally let you. But Africa, which is in this general shape, right above it is Europe in this shape, Asia in this shape. In the corner, kind of down below them, we have Australia in that shape. And of course, we live in North America, this general shape, South America down below us in this shape. You'll notice it's like 2 halves of a ball put together. There's a line around the middle. The line around the middle is called the equator. The equator is where the sun hits the most direct, so it gets really hot near the equator. Any countries near the equator, which is going to be the middle of our map right here, any countries near the equator are going to be very hot, or even continents near the equator will be very hot. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to run real quick through each of the continents with you, and then we'll jump into our math lesson later. The first continent is Antarctica. So Antarctica is at the bottom of our map down here. It looks kind of like this. It also could be called the South Pole. Santa Claus is in the North Pole at the top. Antarctica is the South Pole. A pole is, pretend there was a pole going through the globe. Here is one end of the pole. Here's the other. The North Pole's up here. The South Pole's down here. Antarctica is also called the South Pole. You'll notice that one thing Antarctica is famous for is there aren't really people there except for scientists that visit. And penguins. We all love penguins. They mostly reside in Antarctica, though they live other places too. Okay, let's move from Antarctica and talk about where we live, North America. Remember, our country, the United States, is in the middle of North America. Utah is kind of in the middle of our country, about right here. Now, North America has some beaches in it, but it also has some cities and many mountains like where we live. I don't want to talk too much about North America because you already know about it because we live in North America. This is North America. The next continent is South America. South America is this big chunk right here. Notice the equator's right here. South America goes right through the equator. Many countries in South America are pretty hot. Here is an idea of what people in South America might be doing. Animals in South America. We're talking about rainforests. Yeah, that's just a little bit of an idea of South America. The next country I want to talk about was fly from South America over here to Africa. In Africa, it's this shape. Africa and South America have similar shapes. Notice South America is a little bit smaller and it's right below North America. Africa is a little bit bigger and it's right in the center of this map. And Africa is right below Europe and nearby Asia. South America is all by itself below North America. Now in Africa is where you're going to see things like camels, the Egyptian deserts. You're going to see animals like lions and cheetahs. Okay, so that's a little bit about Africa. Another, if we go up above Africa to Europe, like I told you, that's where you're going to have countries like England and France and Scotland. A lot of old cities and green lands in Europe. People ride bicycles a lot in Europe because many of their cities and many of their places that they need to go are close together, so you can get there by bike instead of car. Yeah. Here are some famous sites of Europe. A lot of you probably recognize the Eiffel Tower in France. There are a lot of castles in Europe because when people were building castles, that was before America was discovered, and so in England there's a lot of castles. Scotland, Ireland, the countries in Europe have many castles because that's why people were at the time of history when people were building a lot of castles. Here's an example of a castle deep in the forest. Okay. From Europe, let's fly over the mountains into Asia. In Asia, they have some of the tallest mountains in the world. Mount Everest is actually there. There are some places in Asia that are very cold. A lot of reindeer live in Asia. A lot of elephants live in Asia. People in Asia aren't always, but they might look kind of like this. A lot of Chinese people, for example, Japanese. Yeah, a little bit about Asia. There's a famous thing in China called the Great Wall of China. You can kind of see it in this picture. It's a huge wall that's so big you can walk on top of it. And there you go. You can see it a little bit better in this picture. Okay. Now from Asia, let's fly down to the last one, Australia. Australia looks like this shape. In Australia, that's where you're going to find, well, they do have a lot of cows in Australia, and a lot of Australia is dry and dusty. You're going to find kangaroos in Australia. You're going to find koala bears in Australia. And yeah, I guess that's the main thing that I wanted to tell you about. There's one famous place in Australia, the Sydney Opera House. Okay, that's a quick flight around the world for you. All right. Hope you enjoyed flying around the world on our continent day. Now let's dive into our schoolwork. I know it took me a long time to explain that. Today's math page, I've pasted a picture of the continent over here. Now we're going to be doing fractions again. I wonder if you can cut this picture of the continents in half for me. Not actually cut it, but draw a line. Let's see if you can do that when it's time. First of all, today is almost like the last 2 days. We're working on halves, thirds, and fourths. Today we're going to color in 1/2, 1/4, and 1/3. Instead of saying one, we could just use the word a third, a half, and a fourth. So on each section, you've got to read the directions. This section says circle a third. So on this whole section, all three problems, you've got to try your best to split it into a third and then color a third or 1/3. Split it into thirds, color 1/3. Split it into thirds, color 1/3. Remember, you want to do your best to make them equal, to split it equally. Make them equal pieces. And I knew I had to split it into 3 pieces because third is 3 equal parts. Half, split it into 2 equal parts. Third, split it into 3 equal parts. And fourth, split it into 4 equal parts. Let's see what the directions are for the next section. Color a fourth. The directions say fourth, so for all 3 problems, it's the same. We're doing a fourth. 4 pieces. Here we go. I'm going to color in 1 of them, and I could have worked a little harder to make them more even, I think. I'll have to do better next time. If we're going to color in, right here it says a fourth. If we're going to color in a fourth, that means we split it into 4 pieces and we color 1 or a fourth, 1 of the 4 pieces. Fourth, and I'm going to color in a fourth. Fourths, I'm going to color in a fourth. On your worksheet, it's almost the same thing. Halves, all 3 of these you do halves and color in a half, 1. This says color a third. All 3 of these you split into 3 pieces, thirds, and color in 1 of each shape, 1/3, 1 section on each shape. This says fourths. All 3 of these you split into 4 equal pieces, fourths, and color in a fourth, or 1 out of the 4 pieces on each shape. And remember, it's Continent Day, woohoo! So here you have a continent picture in the corner. Woo, gotta catch my breath. Pause the video now and go enjoy Continent Day by getting the fraction page done. All right, you should be back from doing your math page. Time to do spelling. By now, this point of the week on Thursday, you should know what we're doing for spelling. You like my little continent guy? Hey, everybody, what's up? And it's really like the globe, the world. Anyway, I thought that was kind of a clever picture. Trace the spelling words one more time. Remember, when you should mostly know this, so I'm going to go fast. When you want to keep the short vowel sound, like in spilled, we're able to say because there's 2 letters there separating the vowels. If you want it to be a long vowel sound, there can only be 1 letter separating them. Like in the word bike, we change it to biked just by adding a D, which means there's only 1 letter right here separating the 2 vowels. That means the I will say I. Make sure you do not put 2 E's, just 1. Make the magic E word, then put a D on the end. If you're making a magic E word that actually you want to be ing, biking, then that's when you have to take off the E and put ing. And again, there's vowel, consonant, vowel, and that's how we know that the I will say I, biking. Okay, pause the video and trace those spelling words. Welcome back. Let's fly around the world some more. Okay. Hopefully you're back and ready to rock and roll. Makes music. I forgot that. Okay, we're turning it off. Let's get back to our list. We did spelling. Now on to writing. Writing, today's story actually doesn't have anything to do with continents because I want you to look back at your story from yesterday. and see, is there anything I can do to make it better? Did you use capitals at the beginning of sentences and periods at the end? Did you do your best second grade spelling and spell second grade words right? Did you use complete sentences? Are there any ways you can make it more interesting by using better describing words like slimy or slushy or something? Are there some describing words you can go back in and add? Could you add a better action word like, instead of saying he walked, he tromped through the forest? Go back and find a few ways, I would say at least 3, maybe more. Find at least 3 ways to make your story from yesterday even better. That's what real writers do. They write down a rough draft, then they go back and revise it to make it even better. Go back in and make it even better, okay? Pause the video now, go look at your story from yesterday and find at least 3 ways to make it even better. Pause the video. Yes, I'm ready. You should be back now. And this thing kind of is fun, but it kind of gets annoying. It keeps talking to me when I just want to fly around the world. The next thing on our list after writing is recess. If it's okay with your parents, take a little recess break, get some exercise, give your brain a little break and then come back. Pause the video and go do your recess. Come back from recess, it's time for reading. Now, reading, there's 3 things. First thing is, same thing we've been doing, the sight words of the week. Second thing is a continents reading page that looks like this. Now, it's got a lot of tricky stuff on it, so I'm going to read it for you, and then you'll be ready to read it on your own too. So here's a map of the world. Then it takes each continent and puts a little picture of it and then tells you some fun facts about it. North America, named after Amerigo Vespucci. North America covers over 9 million square miles and contains 23 countries. North America is located in the northern and western hemisphere. A hemisphere is half of the Earth. If we split it right here on the equator, there's the top, northern, and the bottom, southern. If we split it right here on what's called the prime meridian, there's the western half of the Earth, the western hemisphere, and the eastern half of the Earth, the eastern hemisphere. So when you see the word hemisphere, it's a science or a geography word that means splitting it in half. The southern is the bottom half, northern is the top half or top hemisphere, and then there's the eastern and western hemispheres. South America, also named after Amerigo Vespucci. It covers over 6 million square miles and contains 12 countries. South America is located in the southern and western hemisphere. Europe. Europe is possibly named after the Phoenician, it's a fancy word which means a princess in Egypt, Phoenician princess Europa. It covers over 3.5 million square miles and 23 countries use the euro as a common currency. Instead of having dollar bills over there, they have euros that they exchange. And 23 countries use the euro. Kind of interesting. So there's some tricky words, euro and Phoenician. They're just words that go along with those places. Africa. Africa is the second largest continent, covering over 11 million square miles. It contains 54 countries. Africa is also home of the Nile and Congo rivers. Asia. Asia covers over 17 million square miles, making it the largest of the continents. Ooh, what's the largest? Asia. There's some questions down at the bottom that you can answer after you're done. And the first question says, which country is the largest? You can write in Asia. I'll start over on Asia. Asia covers over 17 million square miles, making it the largest of the continents. Asia also has the highest population of over 4 billion people. Asia contains 48 different countries. Remember, continent is a big chunk of land. Countries are inside of that. Some countries in Asia are like China, Mongolia, Japan. Okay, let's look over here. Australia. Australia covers almost 3 million square miles and is the sixth largest country. Australia is the only continent without glaciers. Interesting. This tricky word glacier means snow that never melts. And Australia is the only continent that doesn't have any glaciers, any snow that will not melt. It's been there for hundreds of years. Over 24 million people live in Australia. Antarctica. Remember, Antarctica is the South Pole. Antarctica covers over 5 million square miles and is located in the southern hemisphere. Ice sheets cover about 98% of the continent and can be over 2 miles thick. So remember, an ice cube is about 1 inch thick. 2 miles of ice in Antarctica in most places. 2 miles. The ice is 2 miles deep. If you've ever been ice fishing, the ice is usually about 3 feet deep, 2 feet deep, 3 feet deep, depends on where you go. But in Antarctica, the ice never melts because it's 2 miles deep. Crazy, 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 crazy. This is your continents reading page. Now that I've read it and introduced you to a lot of the tricky words, you can read it on your own. If you need to go back in the video and read it along with me because there's too many tricky words, you also could try that. I want you to read this continents page just to learn a little bit more about the continents because it's exciting stuff. I love learning about the world, and you will know so much about the world now that you can teach your parents things that they didn't know. I'm sure of it. So go do your reading now for at least 30 minutes. Read the sight words, read the continent page. If you have time, you can read something else also. Pause the video to do your reading. All right, all right, all right. We're back for some more continent fun. Now, I lost my checklist. Here it is. Okay, now that you've done your reading, go get some exercise. Pause the video, go do at least 10 minutes of PE, get some exercise in, okay? And come back. All right, you should be back after reading and PE. For community building today, go to Padlet and let's practice being kind. Go look at all the things that are on there and say something kind about someone else's post, okay? You could say, I like your story. You could say, cool picture, whatever you want to say. Leave a kind comment on something someone else has put on there. And lift time. For lift time today, I want you to learn where these 7 continents are at. That's one of the things that we're supposed to learn in 2nd grade. So for lift time, if you go to our website at nresecond.blogspot.com, where you got to this video, if you go to there, you'll see a link to a 7 continents game. Now you go to this website where the 7 continents game and give it a try. Try naming each of the continents and see if you can do it. And if you're really having fun with it, there are hundreds of other map games on there. You might try figuring out where the oceans are. There's the Southern Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Arctic Ocean. You might want to try figuring out the oceans as well. You might want to try figuring out the countries, or there's all kinds of games on there if you're interested in getting even more into map studies. In 2nd grade, though, we're mostly worried about learning these continents. So go on there, have some fun with it, and try to get the continents down until you can do 100% with no hints or no help from the computer. And that's your lift time assignment for today. If you don't have access to do a game like that, you can always go back onto the reading page and just color in the map, color in each continent in a different color, color in these in a different color, and just kind of, as you're coloring, try to memorize where those continents are. So that's another option for you. All right, guys. Hope you are having fun with this at-home school. I know there's some good and some bad with it, but try your best to have fun. Enjoy yourself. Be happy, be positive. Know that I'm thinking about you and missing you with all these tasks here. And hopefully we can catch up again soon. Have a fun weekend, and you guys just keep up the good work. Keep on doing that schoolwork and keep on being good for your parents. All right.